Hi there, it's Mel from Movement and New Fitness Coaching. This episode, we're making pizza. All right, everyone loves pizza, the big kids and the little kids. So for the pizza, we're making a beautiful, fresh wholemeal base, but you don't have to. When you go to the website, myfitnesscoaching.com.au, you'll see the recipe on there. Gives you the option. You can go to the supermarket and buy a wholemeal base if you want. I know I keep saying wholemeal, that word, but it's really important to try and reduce the processed flours out of our diet. Start making food your fuel, not just something that fills your gut. When we eat the white flours, they're so refined and processed, we don't really get a whole lot of goodness out of them. And if you do have children, start introducing them to wholemeal flours from a young age, so as they become big kids, they'll eat them. They're going to get a lot more energy and it's going to reduce your food bills. So there's another reason to do it. So wholemeal flour, wholemeal base. Really simple way to do it, bread machine. If you've got a bread machine, use the dough setting. All I've done, this is it to make the base. A scale and the bread machine. I just sit the bread pan on top of the scale. I weigh everything straight into there, starting with liquids, salt, flour, yeast last, so it doesn't react with that salt. That's all in the recipe blog. And from here, I'm going to put it in and turn it on and get my ingredients chopped up while the pizza dough is making. Takes about an hour and a half. Now, if you don't have a bread machine, I've given the machine method. So if you've got some sort of a mixer, needs to be a strong mixer like a KitchenAid or something like that, because doughs will break cheaper brand mixers. The Kenwood mixer's also got a strong enough motor to do it, but don't try and use some little home blending machine. The other option is on the bench with your hands, but it is labor intensive, as I talk about that in the recipe. So if you do want to purchase a machine, a bread machine's a great idea because you can do all sorts of great treats in here for yourself and the kids, like freshly made bread instead of the supermarket processed stuff. Once again, some awesome Cinnabons, all sorts of things, and a great recipe book comes with them. You can pick them up in Big W and Kmart quite cheap. So from here, we're going to get that dough on. It's going to take about an hour and a half, which gives me plenty of time to get the ingredients chopped up and ready to go. I simply select the dough setting, which the machine tells you all the different settings, really easy to use, which is, here we go, got it. Then you select your weight and you can hit start, which I'm going to in a minute, but it's going to make noise. You can also set a timer. So you can put this on before you go to work and have it start at a preset time. So it's ready for you to come home to. Here we go. All right, hour and a half. I've got time to get my ingredients ready. All right, so dough's ready. Knocking it back. You want to knock it back just to help with the proving system. Onto a dough plastic sheet for rolling. They're really good for stopping the dough sticking. I've got some semolina flour, so coarse semolina flour, not the fine. What that does is it stops the dough becoming all claggy. When you use regular plain flour, it tends to make pizza doughs clog up and pasta doughs. So that's why this semolina coarse flour is used in order to prevent that happening. So I've done a bit more than what's in the recipe on the website because I like to have leftovers. That's a little trick as well to make sure you eat well through the week. I make leftovers so I can get another meal out of it. And what I'm doing here is forming it up into a nice round, and what it does when we roll it is helps it to roll out nicely and more evenly, and just helps to keep distributing all the gases that the yeast proving has produced. So making it into a nice little round dough. Now, if you follow that recipe exactly that's on the website, you're going to get a nice dough just like that. So, moulding those up. And then we're going to go through the ingredients that I've been busy chopping and the workout that I've done. So, bread makers are excellent because they do all the work for you and give you time to do other things like have a workout. So, I've put all of my oily ingredients on paper towel. I did that as soon as I put the dough on, so the paper towel can absorb the oil and it keeps the pizza from getting soggy. I had the olives draining and they're seedless. I've taken the seeds out. I've got my ham diced. Now over here, I've got my sausage sliced, I've got mushrooms, I've got fresh pineapple, onion, and I use fresh tomato to keep the nutrient content up. No tomato paste, no passatas, fresh tomato. All right, let's get this dough rolled out so we can get some pizza on and show you what it looks like. So rolling it out, just pushing out from the middle to start with, like so. And a bit more semolina. Turning it over helps it to stop sticking, and keep spinning the dough. That helps it to stay in a circle for you. So keep spinning that dough around. And I do it to about probably 1/2 centimetre thick to maybe 3 mils. And from this point, I give it a bit of a stretch to help it relax. So to give it a stretch, you don't have to do this bit. You can just let it roll, keep rolling it if you like, using gravity. And that just helps the gluten in the flour to relax and stretch out a little further to keep that pizza a nice thickness so the crust isn't too thin or too thick. So from there, we put it onto the hot stone. So in the hot barbie, I've got 2 burners on, 200 degrees. I've got a hot stone. Onto that hot stone, I sprinkle semolina, stops it from sticking. From there, I chuck the dough on. And then I do the tomato, and you've got to do this quickly, moving very fast, not too much tomato, and that's the beauty of using fresh tomato. It oozes. So if you put too much tomato on, it's going to make your base soggy. Then what I do, I've got a pre-made amazing garlic and parsley oil. I make it myself from organic garlic and the homegrown parsley I've got. So I just spread that around, making the dough tasty. But you can just get garlic, crushed garlic, and sprinkle it over the top, chop parsley, or in the recipe you'll see I've even put down the Italian dried herbs you can get. They're really tasty. Then I'm going to put on my meats, because that way it'll help keep the meats moist instead of drying them out. So there's lots of tips on the blog about the meats and not getting too many nitrates into you. There's even a link about nitrates explaining why they're not great for us and why we should try to eat them in moderation. So follow those links, because they're there to try and get you a bit more informed so you can make better decisions for yourself. Next thing, mushy so it doesn't dry out. Remember on the blog what I've said there, I've given the tip about not overdoing the topping. Just make another pizza. Okay, overdoing the topping makes the base soggy. And with your toppings, feel free to choose whatever flavors you like. Maybe you love those Mexican pizzas where you just use some leftover spaghetti bolognese and put a bit of chili in, and then top it at the end with some avocado or guacamole. Maybe you just like the traditional ham and pineapple. So whatever flavor you like, this is my favorite flavor, and that's why I've chosen to do it. So you change the toppings up how you like. So once that's on, I love anchovies, so a lot of people are probably going gross right now as I put these on. light cheese. That's the other thing. And that's how we can make homemade pizza a sometimes food, so we don't overdo the fats and nitrates and meats, making it ourselves. And the flavour's so much fresher, so much more flavour. Now, that's one handful. Have a look how far that goes. One handful of cheese. If you remember back to the recipe I did the other week with cheese on it, the hamburger, a matchbox serving a day. So if I use 1.5 handfuls of cheese on a whole pizza, we're not doing too bad. I'm going to close that lid down and let that cook for about 5 to 8 minutes, and then I'll show you when we turn it. So I'm ready to turn that round. You can have a look, it's started to set. It's colouring on the bottom nicely, so I'm just going to spin it to make sure it cooks evenly. Just halfway. Then I'll close it back up. But I meant to mention when I was putting that capsicum on, I had some leftover roasted capsicum that I did. It really adds flavour to a pizza, has that little bit of natural oil through it. So my capsicum was actually roasted on the barbie previously from something else I did. You can use fresh capsicum, roasted capsicum, whatever you like, but try to make sure the capsicum has come from scratch and everything else that you've used to keep it fresh produce. I'm going to give that another 5 to 8 minutes and it should be ready. All right, so the pizza is done. Now, when you cook it in the barbie on a stone, you don't get as much colour on the top, but it still cooks nicely. And what you look for is underneath, nice and brown. So it's going to mean the dough is cooked all the way through the middle. So we're going to take that in and chop it up. So it doesn't matter what you cut your pizza with. If you've just got a kitchen knife, if you've got a wheeling knife, that helps. Cut it into as many bits as you feel like. The recipe I've put on the website, I think it says it feeds 4, so I've done enough so you can get 2 bits each, because the idea is you have a bit of salad with it. I haven't put it in the recipe, but if you don't want to make a salad and you do just want to pig out on pizza, double the recipe. But that, as you can see, pineapple only on half. So some people in this house don't like pineapple on their pizza. I love it. That is my pizza supreme for Junk Food Friday. Bon appetit. Have a great weekend.